she has been a godsend to me since I came to the church and became pastor, and I called over to Rosie. I said, "Hey, Reverend Rosie, you want another wonderful opportunity to serve with me?" And Reverend Rosary, and he very graciously came on down and said, "Sure, we'd love to serve God down at the little church." So I was very, very blessed because she does all the organizing for the speakers, and that is something. So I'm just so blessed and grateful to have Reverend Rosie all these years. It's wonderful. Reverend Rosie came to the First Spiritualist Church in November of 2000 and found and experienced a wonderful healing atmosphere. And like many who come to the Spiritualist Church, Reverend Rosie discovered her true treasure, her spiritual path. It is the foundation for serving humanity. She took many of the classes at First Spiritualist Church, offered and was ordained a minister on December 11th, 2005. And Reverend Rosie Oberlies is a Reiki master and now assistant pastor here at First Christian Spiritualist Church. Reverend Rosie believes that we have all come to the earth plane to learn and live and express the spiritual life while we are here on earth, clothed in a physical body. Let's welcome warmly, please, Reverend Rosie Oberlies.
Thank you. So good to see all of you here. I have to say, the two songs that we sang this morning, they're kind of a song that just really touches your heart, and they have a lot of truth to them. And I'm going to do the lecture on the three songs, but they're kind of like my interpretation of how they symbolize. They can be symbolic, and they can also be messages from Spirit. So I'm going to read from Job 35, chapter 35, verses 10 through 11. And it says, "Men cry out under the load of oppression. They plead from the relief from the arms of the powerful. But no one says, 'Where's my God, my Maker? Who gives a song in the night, who teaches more to us than the beasts of the earth, and makes us wiser than the birds of the air?'" And this, I just happened to come across this, but what really touched me was who gives songs in the night, who they're saying is that in the night, God can help you. He comes in the night, and they're using the symbolic word song. And did you ever really hear a song and it seemed to be giving you a personal message? Yes. And sometimes it's a verification that you have to hear, because you're going bonkers worrying, and then all of a sudden this song comes on the radio and says, I think it was from the Eagles, "Don't let your mind drive you crazy." And it was a perfect, symbolic talking to me in that moment, because I was concerned about it. And I had turned off the news because I was all worried. And then I started to worry again, so I turned it back on, and this lyric came on. Don't let the wheels of your mind drive you crazy. And it touches your heart with a memory also in a new way, because you're looking at life a little differently, as you realize, oh wow, off the radio and I got a message. And that's what we have to look for, a closer walk with God. You're really hits you right, you know. That's why we're here individually, so we're being taught individually. So if you let go of the world and you just hone on yourself, you know, don't criticize or judge other people, stay right here, and you'd be surprised how much help you get. It's kind of like Reverend Deborah when she asked me what songs I would like to have, and my mind went blank. It did, because I just thought, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have 3 songs. And, but usually I select the songs after I know what I'm gonna talk about. But this time I didn't know what I was gonna talk about, so how can I get to song, you know, need a song that corresponds with it. And so, this is where, you know, you have a little faith, let it go. I didn't kind of think, oh, I gotta have it now. And a friend had called, and we were talking about, we got to talking about music, and she's older like I am. And we were talking about music, and she said to me, do you remember that song, One Day at a Time? And I said, oh yeah, that's old. God, that's back in the 50s. I think I remember when it came out. And she said, oh, it kind of brings back memories. But that song was poignant for me, because when I had heard it, I was with someone, and it came on the radio, and I thought, oh, this is really a message to me, that things are going to be all right, that they'll come out the way I hoped them to come out. But it didn't. It didn't work out the way I wanted, and it was really kind of a little sad. But what it was a message for the future. It was not pleasant to wallow in your consequences of a closed door. Sometimes it takes a long process that has to be realized, that you've learned the lesson well, but still you have to do the time allotted for you for the consequences. Sometimes you have to go through those, what they call the little dark times. And even though you know you've learned the lesson, but months later, you know, even though the door closed, months later the doors opened, and it was like I realized that sometimes disappointment, you get a message, it might be disappointing, but it was really a message for what I wanted, but for the future, you know. So, and then I realized I still had one more song from the hymnal, and that was A Closer Walk with You. Let's see, oops. I went to 3. Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. So when I had to think about what I was going to talk about, when I looked at the list of the songs and they were in an order, I knew I could create a lecture from the songs, because the 3 songs are messages. Just A Closer Walk had to be first because it was the most important and the most meaningful. And then the order made me think of, they can be like a symbolic songs. And A Closer Walk, that I realized that there was times in my life when you had your problems, and it did draw you closer to God. And then there's another problem that comes around, and then you walk closer with God. But what we'll do probably all the time, all our lives, is that we will have difficulties and we will have problems, but we will come automatic closer God, you know. And singing, let me just see something here for a minute. I think I'll do this here right now. It's a closer, songs can bring you closer to God too, because they're so beautiful. It depends on which ones you have, and of course there's memories behind those songs. But I remember when I went to see Exec Perlman, and he's a violinist, you know, and so I remember I was at the Symphony Hall, and so I was on the end seat, and there was two gentlemen that sat next to me, and so before it started, he kind of started talking to me, and it was his first time. For me, it was my second, and so anyhow, they were a nice couple. And then they came to a song, the theme from Schindler's List, and except Perlman was saying that is most requested. And so when he started to play, it just, the whole theater got so quiet, so peaceful. And I opened my eyes and I just looked around, and I was kind of thinking, I looked at everybody, and everybody had their eyes closed, you know, and I wondered, what are they thinking about? What are they thinking about? And I wondered, are they thinking about how could that have happened? Will it never happen again? Are they praying? You know, it was such a moving moment. And then everybody, after it ended, everybody clapped and everything. And the gentleman said to me, wasn't that wonderful? I said, yeah. I says, you know, he brings grace. He brings grace. And he looked at me and he said, what do you mean by that? And I said, he brings you closer to God. Everybody was thinking, I know, at that time, that it should never happen again. And that's a form of prayer. And so that's a little symbolic. That's what I got out of, you know, just a closer walk with you. And sing a song represents your life. And you live your life like a song. And your lyrics are your bio. So many songs tell a story. Lyrics talk about your seasons of life. It expresses events and your history behind your life. And the lyric that says, don't worry if it's not good enough for anybody else to hear, just sing a song, is just saying, just be yourself. You know, people are gifted with beautiful talents, and sometimes we don't sing, and we don't dance, and we don't play football, and baseball, but we do have talent, you know, and that talent is just to be yourself. Because when you're yourself, you're connected to God. You know, you're not worried about what people think. You're not worried about money. Well, we try. And so just be yourself. That's your talent. Be good to people. Try not to envy others or their talents or their success. Just let it increase your hunger to hone your own talent and choose to be your best. Everybody has a gift of talent to be a blessing and to help people feel positive during these tough times, these difficult times right now. And not to criticize or pick yourself apart and lose your joy. You don't want to lose that. That's when you pick on yourself that you get down. You don't want to do that. And you just, and when you do that, just work really, really hard to think positively, to think about yourself. Sing your songs. You got lyrics in there that are describing you, that you're a wonderful person. And maybe you think your life is not a song, and you have challenges, but you still have hope. And hope is another song. Spirit lives in you and sings through you. So be your natural self and be patient, because fruit and veggies do do not ripen overnight, and flowers and trees do not bloom and grow in one day to show their beauty. It takes years for tides to erode rocky coastlines, and babies are born in 9 months, and unless they're impatient, they come premature if they're anxious to be here. One thing too is good is try not to keep your days so busy. It does not allow time it does not allow time for stillness. Make yourself take time to rest and reflect. Reflect on the meaningful memories, and if you cannot recall any special memories, just be quiet and still, and Spirit will help you remember a memory. To bring you joy, and like also we go to one day at a time. You have your life experiences and how you choose the higher roads, the time you committed to your spiritual quest, the time it took for you to be an accomplished person that you are now, that you are today. Every day of our lives, we are being taught and we are learning daily. And, okay, here it is. And fellow travelers are our mirrors and our teachers. We are not to linger on their faults and their weaknesses or past mistakes, but to value their efforts to grow. We serve them with encouragement, but also be aware of their tendencies to fall back on their old habits. So we want to help them and be there to encourage them, to lift them up. We should also be aware of our surroundings and what's going on with our families, our friends, our community, our nation, the world. And are you anxious from all that? When you think about these, and you're not alone. And also people are overwhelmed with their own personal problems. But we are all unsure of the future. And our concerns, we try to set them on a back burner only of our minds, and only to get relief, but only to have them heat up in our thoughts. But even in the midst of uncertainty, there is our inner spirit. There is in our inner spirit hope. Inner spirit desires us to grow in strength mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And maybe a song brings you a memory, and that brings you closer to God. As I mentioned with Except Perlman, He can give grace. That's another way of being being closer to God. And give yourself credit and see where you have made wonderful choices by seeking God's guidance, and made choices, and then there is those choices that you have made with your own intellect. But that was before your commitment in your spiritual path, to your spiritual path. Now you don't make decisions without consulting Spirit God. We must speak to and rely on the Supreme Being, who knows what's best for each one of us. And the practice of meditation and practicing the presence strengthens that. And each day can be a battle with our minds and our thoughts, and we can end up in a prisoner of our minds and our problems. But our problems are not God's punishments, it's our consequences of not making good choices at sometimes. Reoccurring problems require a closer walk with God, and devote more time to quiet moments and daily surrender to our will from us. The closer walk with God is achieved by every obstacle being shared with the Creator, and even happy, joyful moments are shared with the Divine, and especially gratitude for those times when He has rescued us. Those were tough times, and He rescued us. And people who have reached a certain level of spiritual growth, they feel like, why didn't I learn this a long time ago? You know, when I needed it, and I just don't understand. I should have started sooner. And why did I waste and squander all that time in those foolish years? But they were not really foolish years. They were not wasted. They were memories of how you were learning about yourself. If you didn't go through those troubled times, you wouldn't be able to handle the problems you have now, because everything has, stepping stones to this present day. You can't go A to M to Z. You have to go A, B, C, learning those levels. And that's what brought you here to today. Today we thirst for the truth in our society, and nothing in the news or these TV documentaries seem to quench that thirst. Only closeness to Spirit. And in time, you will sense when it is time to eliminate old beliefs and old ways. Beliefs that limit you, that don't serve you, and you emerge into a higher mind. What is especially rewarding and healing is our memories of our spiritual path, to see how spiritual growth helped us enjoy our lives today. And even if a song guides you, it's a delightful way to be enlightened. And the lyrics can be messages for you from Spirit. Now, I was going to end up in a different way, but, last night, I went to close the front door. And so, in the next block, I didn't sound like a party, but they had this recording. It was so loud that I could understand all the lyrics. And it was almost like being serenaded, because that singer was my favorite Mexican singer. And his name is Jose Alfredi Jimenez. Jose Alfredi Jimenez. And it brought memories of my aunt, because when we go to her house, we lived in Normal Heights, so I had to be like in the 5th grade. And I'd run up the hill, and she knew we were coming, and she had this stereo full blast with his music and all the Mexican music, and we would be dancing, and then my mother would come in, and she'd say, "Oh, it's so loud." But she would just watch us. But he was a singer, a songwriter. He's the equivalent of like our Sinatra, Crosby, and he's wrote some beautiful, beautiful songs. And so it just was verifying my lecture today, because in Mexico on your birthday you get serenaded with Las Mañanitas. That's not my birthday. But I thought, here I wanted to hear it, but I had to go work on this. Work on this. But I thought, thank you. And so good music lifts, whether it's your native language or American, rock and roll, whatever. It just, certain songs give you grace and brings you closer to God one day at a time. But also, why I looked at the clock, I had to change something in this. And I looked at the time because I needed the light, because I was doing it in the dark. And it was 4:44 a.m. in the morning. So I'm glad you listened. So I just, just be blessed with music, and listen for the messages, okay? The divine is talking to